Welcome to Hey, Great Shot. This is the Great Shot Podcast, a Cracked Racquets and Tennis Channel Podcast Network production. My name is Alex Gruskin. On tonight's show, we've got one of my favorite editions of The Deciding Point, our breakdown of everything that's happening in the Division I college tennis world, of course. Here on Tuesday nights on our Cracked Racquets YouTube channel, we break down all of the Division I women's action. And while we do have a few conference tournament results to recap on tonight's show, the focus of this episode is, of course, the 2023 NCAA tournament. While yesterday we offered our live reactions to everything as the draw was unveiled, on tonight's show, we get to do the cleanup act and take you through all 16 of the opening weekend's regions. We'll talk about the host seeds on Upset Alert. We'll talk about the top seeds we expect to look the part. We'll run you through the most interesting first round matchups, the most interesting individual matches. We'll offer you our predictions and so much more. And joining me to help break it all down is the man who has joined me each and every week on this show, a man I know matches my excitement for the upcoming month of tennis. It's a man you all know best as the returning champion of returning champions here on our Cracked Racquets podcast, founder of the No Ad, No Problem blog and podcast. It is our co-host of these episodes of The Deciding Point and my dear friend, John J. Parsons. Jay, hey, great shot. Welcome back to the show. It's finally NCAA tournament time. How are you feeling, my friend?
I'm feeling great. Look, coaches say they play the whole season for this moment. You know who else plays this season for this moment? That's us, right? We have been doing this weekly. It all leads up to this event, and I couldn't be more excited for this to be happening. Looking forward to breaking it all down. My study guide, I would call it. Players are studying for finals. I'm studying for this event. I have a 16-page guide ready to go here for the women's and men's NCAA draw previews. I'm excited. Could not be more looking forward to this episode.
What do we as a college tennis populace have to do to get access to those 16 pages? Because I want to read those notes. That's the prep I need for this weekend's broadcast. And for what it's worth, I know we haven't made the formal announcement. I don't want to get too far ahead of it, but I won't lie. I'm going to be leaning heavily on Jay for tonight's predictions, as we're so fortunate to be able to be a part of the broadcast of so much of the upcoming month of this NCAA tournament. As such, I get accused of bias anyways. I don't want to make it too easy for anyone. I'm featured in a tennis recruiting panel. They always offer up a roundtable from people like us about thoughts heading into the NCAA tournament, and they asked us for our predictions. And I would ask every listener of the show to go read that article, one, because it's always intriguing. It's always informative. But two, I think you're really going to like my answer to that question. It's exactly as stupid as you would expect. And so, yes, again, predictions, it's going to be fun. I want to see those 16 pages. Jay, what do we have to do?
I don't know. I should come up with something good. There's some salacious stuff in here. I don't know. Maybe that's not for the Cracked Racquets Patreon.
Yeah, exactly. You got to pay extra, double for that sort of content. Well, of course, we can get the abridged Cliff Notes cleaned up version of those 16 pages here on tonight's show. Exactly, as we're going to run you through all the regions. Again, talk Pac-12 tournament, talk Big Ten tournament to start tonight's show, but then get pretty heavily into our NCAA tournament preview, of course. The reason we're going to be able to do that tonight, as we've been able to do each and every week, and as we've reached May, which, let's just be clear, Rome, Madrid, French Open, NCAA tournament, it's the best month on the tennis calendar, hands down. I got to give a shout out to you, Jay, and yeah, half a shout out to me as well. We didn't miss an episode this year, and again, the reason we make it a point to record each and every week, A, we know how much great action happens throughout the course of college tennis season. We don't want to miss out on any of it. We owe it to all of you fans who have tuned in, week out, have made this so exciting for us throughout the course of this season. And I see some questions in the chat. Of course, we'll be happy to answer any of them throughout the course of tonight's show. Shout out to all of you who have made this such a fun season. Again, we're ready for the home stretch. Of course, the reason we've been able to highlight it all here on The Deciding Point is because of the support we get from our dear friends at Tourna and Ellesse. And look, again, everyone recognizes a Tourna grip. There's a reason so many players across the country, across the tennis world use Tourna. Switch to the latest Tourna product, Tourna Tuff. It's a more durable version of Tourna grip. Still going to get tackier as you sweat. Still going to have that iconic trademarked blue color. We appreciate the support we get from our friends at Tourna. You can find their product anywhere you shop for your tennis equipment. It's that good. Trust me, once you make the switch, you'll never use anything else. Shout out to our friends at Tourna for their continued support. Shout out to our friends at Ellesse, who of course have been with us since the start of this season. We appreciate all they do to support us here at Cracked Racquets. And of course, you can have access to their immense catalog of clothing by clicking on the link in the description to this podcast. Again, a massive thank you to our friends at Ellesse for the support they do give to these episodes of The Deciding Point. With all of that said, Jay, again, got to clean up some final things from conference tournament play. Then we'll get into our NCAA tournament preview. Let's start with the Pac-12, which I do think is the more significant of the two results, because from a dark horse perspective, there was a team that I think there are a lot of dark horses, a lot of unseeded or non-top 16 seeds, I should say, that are going to come from out west that could absolutely do some damage here in the opening weekend of play. And a team we have highlighted all season long, the USC Trojans, they got a much needed confidence boost heading into this NCAA tournament. They reached the conference final, knock off Arizona State 4-1, Cal 4-2, two very impressive victories for this Trojan team. And yet that's not the headline coming out of the Pac-12 tournament. The headline is that Stanford is thriving. And this was a team we both pointed to at the start of the year, very much in that inner circle of the national championship conversation. Well, now they've won 18 in a row. And they haven't lost a match since the indoors. And they beat both USC and Washington 4-0. They 4-1 Arizona. You know, Yepafinova has settled into that number one spot, and to have NCAA finalist from last season, Connie Ma, at 2, you feel great there. Blake at 3 might be the best spot in their lineup, and she's the third person you mention. And then again, they figured some things out, whether it's the freshman Blokina getting better throughout the course of the season, 5 and 6 doubles, what they want to do with those pairings. You're our Stanford expert. You tell me, you've seen all the Stanford teams over the years. Does this one have the chops?
Oh, well, I don't think that's fair to compare them. Look, this is still a Stanford team that is looking to get to the quarterfinal for the first time since 2019.
Sure.
That is shocking for a team that's won 20 of the available 40 NCAA tournaments. So I don't think it's fair to kind of compare them to the Stanford years of past. Where you might draw the comparison is, okay, you have a Stanford team that's won 18 matches in a row. They're out west doing their thing. How good are they, right? Are they NCAA championship winning? And that's what's going to be really interesting. This is a Stanford team that will now in the NCAA tournament, in the first 2 rounds, not to jump ahead, but face a team that's ranked higher than any other team in the Pac-12 in Oklahoma State. So yes, they roll through this Pac-12 tournament. It is an extremely talented team. I think what they will benefit from this year is having more experience. It's still a young team. All of those, the trio of Yepafinova, Connie Ma, Shu at 5, they're all sophomores, but they went to Oklahoma last year. They were a little bit more battle tested. They've come through this season. So I think they're very much in this dark horse conversation of being tier 1.
Yeah, I guess it was improper framing in the sense of the context of the field, where this Stanford team compared to fields of years past, it's not the gap, the delta isn't the way it would be for a team that's won 20 of 40 national championships, to your point. That said, in any other season, I do think this Stanford team now has that national championship gusto. And I think you framed it perfectly where maybe it's not this season, but next year or the year after that, with all these players coming back, this group is really freaking good. And do I think they're going to unequivocally win the national championship this season the way they have in years past? You're right. The answer to that question is no. Could they make the semis? Could they make the finals? I didn't think that coming off of the national indoors. I think it's hard to say no to that question now because their top three are that good. And because, again, I mean, what do you think about their 4, 5, and 6? Where are you with their progression throughout the course of the year to get really Stanford specific? Because we haven't really had the Stanford conversation this year.
Yeah. So Blockina has been volatile this season. She looked a lot better in the Pac-12 tournament. The best version of Blockina is going to be close to unbeatable at 4. Now, how often we see the best version of Blockina is going to be a question mark. But when she's playing aggressive and not defensively, she's going to be one of the best 4s in the country. Shu as well. Valencia Shu is playing a lot better. I really liked her aggression. I mean, she finished a match there against USC, right? And she is more methodical. She plays slower points. Not often she gets off the court. Sarah Choi at number 6, the one connective tissue to that 2019 team who did win the NCAA championship. When she is healthy, she has struggled with health a little bit this year. I think she's going to be one of the tougher outs at number 6. So the best version of this Stanford team, it is not just about that top 3. It is also about 4 through 6. The biggest Achilles heel for the Stanford team, which has been something that has long been an Achilles heel for them, is the doubles point. This is not a Stanford team that is strong in doubles, and in a field with margins that thin, that could come back to bite them.
Okay. No, all of that is interesting to note. And yeah, I mean, look, they take the doubles point against USC, and obviously they take the doubles point against Washington as well. Yeah, it is the most notable thing about that USC match is that they win doubles. They get wins at 5 and 6, and then it was, I think, Blake at 3, who was the third victory for them as well. And again, to get 5 and 6, those are going to be the swing spots all NCAA tournament long because we know about the battles up top. Any team that gets rhythm at that 5 and 6 spot, that's the team that so often ends up in the winner's circle. I always point back to Aragoni and Wiersholm just because it's the most pronounced example of that 5 and 6 success. There are plenty more examples of it over the years, but that's just the clear and present one. And yeah, again, it's a credit to Stanford. They roll to another Pac-12 tournament title. We had this conversation a bit yesterday. I know you named this team as a dark horse. It's a really good weekend for USC. And, you look for the Trojans I think the biggest thing, it's not just the 4-2 win over Cal. It's that they get that win without Cayetano. They get that win without a win from Maddie Sieg at the top spot as well. They also get a win over a really good Arizona State team. Like, to do it back to back, that's what you have to do this weekend. And maybe for the first time all season, USC looks at themselves and they say, hey, like, we can do it back to back this year.
Yeah, it felt a little Murphy's Law when we saw Cayetano out of the lineup. It was like, wow, this USC team really can't catch a break. But look, sometimes when you're down and out like that, you find a way to rally together. I was really impressed with the way this USC team stepped up without one of their leaders in Cayetano, particularly finding wins at 4 through 6, right? If you're going to lose your number 3 player, everyone's got to step up. And that didn't seem to hurt them that badly. As you mentioned, they still found wins even without Sieg getting a win at number 1. She's been one of their surefire points. And without Snow Hahn at 2, kind of struggling. So overall, I was very impressed with USC and the way that they came together.
They beat Arizona State without Cayetano and without Naomi Chung. Like, that's an impressive victory for the Trojans, a testament to their depth. The last one I would bring up, Washington 4 over UCLA. Like, God, do they need that? I know they lose the next match to USC, but they needed one just to get the juices flowing again.
Yeah, they needed to stop the bleeding, right? They had lost 4 straight in the Pac-12, and so they feel good about that. Again, we talked about this. That's a budding rivalry here with the Washington UCLA team. So they're excited to get that win and hopefully carry that momentum into NCAAs.
Yeah, no, again, it's a really fun group. It was a really fun Pac-12 tournament. Obviously, again, would have been even more dramatic had Cal needed to like avoid the 500 rule, which they didn't, and they should have never had to have that. But there was a moment like 3 weeks ago where it looked like that might be the case. And look, ultimately Cal gets in as they should. They have a really fun first round match that we'll talk about a little bit later. But yeah, Stanford, your Pac-12 champions, USC, certainly a team has momentum once again going into the NCAA tournament. And all you got to do is point back to 2021, to a time when an unseeded USC team ultimately found themselves at the final site. That was one. Let's go to the Big Ten next, where ultimately Michigan completes an undefeated Big Ten season. They looked really good throughout the course of the weekend. 4-0 over Maryland, 4-0 over Wisconsin, and then an impressive 4-2 victory. They were down 5-2 at that number 2 double spot. Julia Fligner, Lily Jones ultimately coming back with the 7-5 victory from there. Ultimately, it was Jaden Brown, Gala Mesicharito, and Julia Fligner who earns the clinching victory to give the Wolverines a 4-2 win, their third over the Buckeyes this season. Jay, where are you with these Wolverines?
Well, I won't rub it in for your men, but there were a lot of parallels here between the Michigan women and the Ohio State men. I recall a similar comeback there in doubles as well for the Ohio State men. Look, they absolutely looked the part. They went undefeated in the Big Ten regular season. There were no dips in form here in any of those matches. Ohio State showed some life there in second sets, and they started to come back and, split sets, but Michigan closed the door. Really comprehensive performance for Michigan. It was good to see Gala back in the lineup for them at 6. Look, they are extremely solid team up and down the lineup, and they every much deserve to be the number 5 seed in NCAAs.
Good weekend for Mary Kelly, no doubt about that, who, part of the double swap we saw, and Jaden Brown, Kari Miller split up. Of course, there'll be a top 5 seed at the NCAA tournament. We learned that today, but Jaden at 1 with Andrea Serdon, Miller now at 3 with Mary Kelly. Again, Lily Jones, Julia Fligner at that 2 spot. Although I think we saw them at 1 in one of the matches as well. There was some playing around with doubles. There's a lot of college tennis over the course of the weekend. It worked. I mean, again, Wisconsin's really good in doubles. I got to watch them against Northwestern in person. They were really impressive, and that's a really well fought doubles point. Again, it was just a really good weekend for this Michigan team. They unequivocally deserve to be a top 8 seed. It's going to be a really fun weekend in Ann Arbor to have 3 days of high level NCAA college tennis from Friday to Sunday. And that's not a place I would venture to say Michigan tennis has been maybe ever, or certainly in a very long time. And, again, it's a credit to this. The biggest testament I can say about this group is, as exciting as they have been this year, you just can't help yourself and think, well, 5 of the 6 are back next year. And God, is this group really positioned? It's going to be just like a really fun 2-year run. And this group has made it that enjoyable.
On the eve of what could be the most historic run for Michigan women's tennis in all time.
I'm just saying.
What do you mean we can't help ourselves about thinking? I'm not thinking about 2024 and this Michigan team. I'm thinking about them in the now. You are right. This is going to be the first time in history both the Michigan men and women could host the Sweet 16, right? They could do that as well. So it is a historical moment there in Arbor. Let's celebrate the present.
I agree. I'm just saying it's the healthiest Michigan tennis has been in my lifetime. And that's a fun place for a biased fan would be. Now, I'm not, so I guess it's not that fun for me, but I could imagine, I see the argument in favor of it being fun. And again, look, Jaden Brown is banged up, and for her to get a 3-3 win over Arena Contos, for her to take that 6th love set against Maryland to really put that one away, she's been excellent, deserving MVP. Julia's clinching against Ohio State twice. I don't know if I'm going to have any hair left at the end of the season, but that's really fun. It's a really fun Michigan group to watch in person as well, and I was excited to get to do that this past weekend. I also thought, and you said this not to sneak it out, just to sneak this under the rug, I thought Ohio State fought really well. They could have folded after that doubles point, and it's funny. You can make the same parallel to the Michigan men where they could have folded after dropping the first sets. Neither team does, and maybe that's just a testament to this rivalry. But the Contos loss was surprising in straight sets, and I do wonder how much that had to do with it being indoors versus outdoors. That's a really good win for Sydney Ratliff at 2. And again, you have 3 set matches at 3 through 5. It turned into a toss-up. Now Michigan ultimately gets the victory, but I thought it was a really good weekend for the Buckeyes as well. Not really
Uh,
good, but a quality weekend. Like you don't feel bad coming off of it.
well, I think it's always tough to lose 3 straight matches to your number one
Sure.
rival. They were very close to
Yeah.
not making that match in the semifinals, or was it the quarterfinals? There was one match where they really
No,
struggled
it was
against
the quarters because the semis was
quarters.
Illinois. Yeah, it was the
Illinois, yeah, that
quarters.
one,
Yeah. I
yeah, the quarters. So
think it was Nebraska. Or
yes, it was
yeah.
Nebraska, and if Boulay doesn't come back from 1-3 in the third, that could be a very different story.
Yeah. I'm telling you, I'm sorry to interrupt. I really wanted to go to the women's event at Purdue to watch some of these teams play because I think the state of Big Ten women's tennis, particularly with the impending additions of USC, UCLA, it is an interesting 30,000-foot view question. I know we got to celebrate the presence. We're getting into the NCAA tournament preview in a second, I
That's an
promise.
off-season topic.
Yeah, but like I watched Nebraska. I watched Illinois. I watched Wisconsin and like all in Northwestern who had a bad year. There's no denying that. But I thought the quality of play was good. I did. I was pleasantly surprised by how good these Big Ten teams were.
It's
I don't
great.
know how, yeah, even though only 4 of them are in the NCAA tournament. All right, well, that's the tangent. Any other Big Ten thoughts? You ready to get to the NCAAs?
Yeah, let's get to the NCAAs.
All right, let's do that. That's again Michigan, Stanford, your Power Five conference tournament champions from the past weekend. With all that said, it's time to look at the postseason. It's time to get to the NCAA tournament. And again, what we decided to do is break down all the categories, host sites on upset alert, seeds who we expect to have success, the best of the rest, the best first round matches. We'll have all of that coming up over the next 40 minutes. Now, how we are going to categorize things is, again, I came up with these categories. I have these seeds on upset alert for one reason or another. We will let John J. Parsons be the arbiter of if these seeds are properly placed. With that in mind, of course, everyone is wondering who are the top 16 host seeds on upset alert. That's, of course, where we're going to start. And look, it's pretty cliche to say the number 16 seed, the last host seed, is on upset alert. So I don't think it's a shock for anyone to find out that we have 16th seeded Florida in this category. Florida, who I thought had a really good season for a group that was incorporating a lot of different young pieces. They finished the year 16-7 overall. It's not about any doubt you have in them. It's about who they're hosting, as they're going to host Georgia Tech, UCF, and North Florida. This Georgia Tech team, ACC battle tested. You could argue they may walk on court with the 2 best players in Carol Lee and Kylie Bilchev with the form those two have had throughout the course of this season. The reason Florida is in this category is because of Georgia Tech. Jay, am I fair in placing them here?
Yeah, absolutely. I think this is the number one upset that people are circling here. And it's not just because of the 16 seed. You'd probably say this if there was a 15 or a 14 seed here, right? Georgia Tech has looked very strong down the home stretch, beating Miami at home, taking out a Chloe Beckless Duke in the ACC tournament, but a Duke team nonetheless. Yeah, this is absolutely a deserving upset here. It's going to be a very close match.
Yeah, and I went and looked at the stats for these two teams because I was just looking for a match calculus. The swing match is 4 singles, and Carol Lee and Bilchev get the headlines. Alejandra Cruz has been so good for Georgia Tech this season. Cruz 15-6 overall, 12-2 at the number 4 spot. The Yellow Jackets 19-3 at 4. Florida's 16-2. And Rachel Galis, the
Yeah.
freshman, 14-3 overall in dual match play, 12-2 at that 4 spot. Here's the thing. I think Georgia Tech's a little bit better at doubles. You look at their record, that's interesting. I'm so wrong about that. They're 28-34 overall in individual double sets here in this dual match season. That just doesn't feel right for a Georgia Tech team. Florida 34-20, Jay. So wrong by me. I feel like, again, if you're Georgia Tech, it starts at 1-2.
Mm-hmm.
I think everything, Florida's been really good at the 3, 4, or really solid 3, 4, 5, and 6. What's the path? What do you see?
Well, if you're Georgia Tech, the path is doubles, right? Doubles 1, 2, and probably 4. And if you don't get doubles, then you need to find one of 5 and 6.
Yeah, sure. Mahak Jane, 16-7 this season. She has been very good. Again, that's been the player who's come through. We saw Rosie Garcia Gross do it once. Not to cut you off, it's been up and down at 6. They're 8-13 overall at that position. So that's probably not the spot you turn to. You got to take what, 4 of the top 5 then?
Yeah, I think so. Although, Florida hasn't been that strong at number 6 either. I think for me, where I lean in this match overall is that Georgia Tech's going to have a tricky first round with UCF, a UCF team that hasn't been healthy
Yeah, sure.
all season, but will come in here looking to kind of get their first, NCAA win under their belt. And then Georgia Tech's going to come in and have to face Florida, a team in Gainesville in the swamp. This is the very popular upset pick. I'm going with the Gators, though.
I like it. Look, Florida's been solid everywhere, and seeing that doubles record is encouraging because if they take the doubles point, they're a hard team to find 4 against. They're over 500 at every position. Again, really good at that number 4 spot.
Yeah.
But, D'Oliveira's 13-6. Dudney's 15-4, Dahlstrom 13-6. They've had a bunch of success in different places. Again, I'm not making predictions, but I appreciate you doing so. This is certainly a region many will have circled throughout the course of this opening weekend. Let's move to the next team I put on this list. 8th seeded Pepperdine. It has everything to do with the strength we've seen of USC, and you made the case for them yesterday, but I'll ask you again today. Is it justified to put Pepperdine on this list?
Absolutely, right? This is a Pepperdine team who, unfortunately for them, has a very clear match calculus. It's doubles and 1, 2, and 3. And when doubles goes askew, which has started to happen during the kind of home stretch of this season, they had lost 3 doubles points in a row against WCC competition, becomes really dicey for them. Now, they did just win their conference tournament title, but they're on the outside looking in of the top 8. And this is a USC team who, when they played Pepperdine earlier this season, it's 4-3 match. Emma Charney had match points against Tom Chaiwat. USC didn't have Naomi Chung, and USC might not have Erin Cayetano. But if they have a full strength lineup here, they can absolutely beat Pepperdine because I think they have the depth to do it.
Well, they didn't have Chung when they played in the regular season. Sorry, go ahead.
Well, and I was going to say, Pepperdine is building sort of a fortress around that top 3, right? Saying, hey, we're going to get this top 3. Look, Maddie C can absolutely beat Lisa Czar at number 1 singles. And so, yes, I think they can get the bottom half of this lineup, and I think they can also put a dent in that top 3.
Yeah, they took doubles, I should say. They didn't have Naomi Chung in singles in their matchup in the regular season. 4-3 thriller came down to a 3-set win from Bunyawe Tim Chaiwat. But of course, Emma Charney, the freshman, had all sorts of chances in that match at 4. Look, Brodus is still undefeated in this 2023 season, the thing we haven't talked enough about on every episode. And,
she's up to 2 now.
Yeah. And so, again, given whether it's a healthy or depending on the varying health of a Han, of a Cayetano, whether it's Chung in that position, whomever it may be, who'd they submit?
Well, they submitted, Sieg, Han, Cayetano, right? Everyone in there, Chung, Charney. So.
Yeah, I mean, again, the only thing I feel certain about in that matchup is I lean Brodus at 2. Like, that's all I got. Everything else I think is a toss-up, and that's why I think it's a really fun match. You picking Pepperdine or USC? Who you got?
Look, I mentioned, this has been a tough season for USC. I thought they showed a lot of resolve here in the Pac-12 final. It's a very familiar opponent, familiar location, not a far drive. I'm picking USC to get out of this regional.
Wow, there it is. You want to give me a path?
For USC, I think that they will take doubles. I think they will get 4, 5, and 6.
All
and
right.
if they do not get Redlick, if they do not beat Redlick at 5, I think Sieg beats Lisa Czar at 1.
All right, there it is. And I'll tell you what, if that's the clinching match, 4 hours, clear your night schedule.
Absolutely.
That one's going the distance.
I will say Brodus not being at 1, I think specifically hurts them against USC because I think any of their top 3 win at number 2 in this instance. I think Brodus might be a better matchup against Sieg.
I like that insight. Is that from the note pack? Is that in the 16? pages.
It's written in here somewhere, but that one was off the cuff.
I like it from the 16. There we go. Again, it was a 4-3 regular season match, so no matter what, it promises to be fun. Let's move down to the two-time defending NCAA champions, Texas, your number 8 seeds. They're going to host A&M Corpus Christi in round number 1. They then face the winner of San Diego Cal, should they get through that round 1 battle. And of course, Cal, a team we saw at the NCAA Sweet 16 as recently as last season, I believe. And, obviously they're taking on a San Diego team we saw reach the national indoors. San Diego beat Cal in the kickoff weekend. I don't know if I have this on. The reason I have this in upset alert is just because there's a lot of depth everywhere. Like there's just a lot of options across the board, and everyone's been pretty good across those 3 teams, Jay. Is it justified to have Texas in this category? We might have lost Jay for the moment. In fact, I think we did. So what we're going to do is go to a quick break, but of course we will be back here in the moment. It was a riveting question, certainly. But for the meantime, we'll take a quick break. We will be back, I believe, right after this.